Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Heather, for introducing me. Today, we're really excited about our speaker. Her name is Emily Aborn. And for those of you who do not know her, she's a content writer and the owner of She Built This, which is a community for women entrepreneurs to build the dreams they have together. She has over 10 years of experience working with entrepreneurs in various roles, and she helps to create compelling content and copy through their branding. So, Emily lives in New Hampshire with her husband Jason and her dog Clyde. And when she's not working, she can be found out and about hiking, reading, writing, doing puzzles, or just trying to beat the Jeopardy contest to their answers. So thank you so much, Emily, for joining us today. We're really excited to hear what you have to say and learn a little bit more about increasing our visibility. So thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't know when I was supposed to turn that that camera on. Hello, everybody. I am super excited to be here, and I even made an effort to. Usually, I don't get out of bed until 7, so I'm doing pretty good today. I want to start out by asking a question, and Heather, if you don't mind, I'd love to have the slides up there, and then I'll just kind of cue you when to switch each one, if that's okay. So I'd love to start by asking you a question as to whether or not you have ever in your life hit a roadblock that you couldn't see the way over for yourself or get through for yourself. So you can either physically raise your hand or just kind of put it in the chat and share if that's been an experience that you've had. So I'm going to tell you about a time that happened to me. And if you don't know me, my backstory, my first business was actually an organic mattress store in Amherst, New Hampshire. And no, you cannot eat organic mattresses. Yes, I got asked that question all of the time, and people looked at me like I had 6 heads. So for a little bit of context, organic mattresses were toxin-free, unconventional sleep products that didn't have formaldehydes, dyes, petroleums, and chemical flame retardants. And I know that some of you are going to Google that later, and so I'm sorry, and also you're welcome. So we opened that store in 2014 in Amherst, as I said, and things were going really, really good for us for the first 3.5 years. Business was smooth. We were making money. We were able to pay all our bills. It was great. Well, at about that 3.5 mark in 2017, we hit a serious roadblock, and it was just like crickets. Nobody was coming into the store. New people weren't learning about the store. So before we started, living in the red being our new modus operandi, I reached out to somebody at the Small Business Development Center here in New Hampshire and asked for some support and a little bit of help. So she asked me about my marketing strategy. And, I went through the very complex and thorough marketing strategy that we had in place. All things I thought of as, being visible, and things that maybe you do too. So we had an optimized for SEO website. We were sending regular emails to our customers. We were posting on social media. We'd tried print advertising in all of the places. And we had really, really good customer service to the point where on Saturdays and Sundays, I would have coffee and cookies. And on Sundays, sometimes even like mimosas for my customers. It was really just a matter of how to actually get people into the shop and to learn that we even existed. So I asked her, what are we doing wrong? Like, we are doing all of these things. And it was just my husband and I running the store at the time. And the way that it worked was he was doing the books and the deliveries, and I was in the shop all the time. So I worked from Wednesday through Sunday. And, Mondays and Tuesdays, I cleaned my house or did my personal things, and then woke up and did it all again Wednesday through Sunday. So she listened very carefully to the whole situation and gave me some advice that I will never forget. Is probably the best advice I've ever received. And it's not rocket science. She said to me, Emily, you just need to get out there and meet people And here I was secluding myself in my business, working in it day in and day out, and really isolating myself as a business owner. So she went on to talk about, like, really connecting to people in similar industries like chiropractors and acupuncturists and essential oil reps and people that had to do with health and wellness. But I stopped listening after she said the word people, and I just made it my new mission in life to meet absolutely everyone. Now, at the time, I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, but I was doing nothing with my chamber membership. I never went to events. I never connected with other chamber members. So I just had that on my website as, like, Sauhegan Valley Chamber of Commerce member. So I started there with something I already had. I started attending the business after hours. I joined a few committees, and I even started a blog called Tuesdays on the Town, where I would go around and interview other chamber members, feature them as a spotlight, and kind of use that as a way to leverage visibility for myself. Outside the chamber, I would say yes to anyone and everyone that needed to host an event. Like, we had the retail shop was actually very lovely. And it was very random that it was a mattress store, and we were hosting things like ladies' nights and solar energy information sessions, networking events, workshops. I would just say yes to all of it. I also got on podcasts and a couple of radio shows. In fact, I saw Andrea O'Brien on here. She had a local radio show that she had me in. And then I would just connect with other people and actually have them come to my shop, and we would do like a regular Facebook Live where I would interview them around topics that I knew my ideal clients would be interested in. So now I shifted my life schedule to spend every single Tuesday focused on just meeting new people. And before long, what I found was that I was no longer that isolated entrepreneur. I had started to build this network of connections around me. I realized that there were way more entrepreneurs surrounding me than I thought, and people were struggling with the same things that I was. And by connecting with them and asking what they struggle with and sharing what I struggle with, we were able to really help each other get the resources, connect with the clients we were looking to connect with, and help each other to get where we wanted to go, which for me translated to more traffic into my business. And what I loved seeing was how we were creating this super supportive community in real time. Now, I will tell you, we did not end up keeping that business for various reasons. After about 5 years in business, we decided to close our doors and shift, which put me in a position where I needed to decide what my next step was. And I can say with 100% confidence that that advice of getting out there and meeting with people and connecting with people is the reason I am where I am today. And I don't know if I would have either of my businesses if it were not for that decision that I took, that action that I took. I can trace back so many opportunities to those original coffee chats and those original networking events that were really stepping stones for me to get to where I am today. So you can move on to the next slide if you don't mind. So when we think of visibility, I think we often go to the places I talked about that I thought of visibility. We think of our social media and our websites and writing press releases, or maybe, that billboard on the side of 101. We think of things that are sort of external from us. But I want to challenge us today to change our approach to visibility and think about it from an internal perspective. And I'm also going to kind of give you 3 ways to start imagine doing it differently and also viewing it differently. So you can move to the next slide, please. We're going to talk about visibility through collaboration, visibility through connection, and also visibility through being consistent. And we're going to get into how to create that strategy so that you can move forward and start implementing these things right away, because there's nothing worse than going to listen to something or experience something and then you're like, where do I start? So I'm going to give you some really easy, quick action steps. And just really quickly about me, today I am the owner and founder of She Built This, which is a community for positive women entrepreneurs and professionals who are inspired and, I dare say, excited by growth and success. And I also am a freelance content writer. So I really help people to find their voice and also get the visibility that they're craving by standing out from all of the other people that do exactly what they do. Now, visibility is a buzzword right now. So let's start out by defining it. Visibility, according to the dictionary, is the state of being seen. But as entrepreneurs and business owners and professionals, visibility is really getting seen by the right people so that you can gain opportunities, increase your revenue, and I would say the most important is create more impact. It really helps to build those connections and relationships that help get you where you want to go and achieving your goals. And you're going to learn soon that it's a win-win for everybody. So I really believe that visibility it's an action, right? And so we have to take that action to open doors, to put ourselves out there and make those connections so that people know that our products and services exist. And I know that for a lot of people, right here is where we stop. This is where it starts to feel scary because putting yourself out there, getting visible, that sounds really scary. What if you mess up? What if you fall flat on your face? What if people don't like what you do? Or I know some people say, somebody else is more of an expert than me, or I haven't taken all of the courses or done everything that I need to learn yet before putting myself out there. Well, I want to tell you that when you commit to showing up and being visible, it's not always comfortable and it's not always easy. It really can feel like all the eyeballs are on you and that people are just going to be like pointing and laughing at you if you make a mistake, but that is not truth. So let's rewrite that story for ourselves. And what I want everybody in this room to realize is that you have the power to change somebody else's life. What you offer, what you provide, it is something that people want and need. And so to help yourself overcome some of that fear around being visible, you can think about helping somebody else and taking yourself kind of out of the equation. If you stay the best kept secret, you are holding somebody else back for the opportunity to have their lives be changed. Somebody somewhere is literally waiting for you to just step out and take action to be more visible. Thank you. Perfect. So Laura Belgray, someone I really admire, of the Talking Shrimp, she says, it's a gift to other people when you show up as yourself and become visible. And I really think, like, if you want to think if you want to think bigger, you can think about somebody in your life right now that you really, really admire, or a product that you really, really love and you use every single day. So I will give the example. I am so inspired by Mel Robbins, and I'm also inspired by tons of the women in my She Built This community. Now, imagine if that person who is most definitely, when they were starting to get visible, going through some of those same fears and insecurities, what if they just decided they were never going to show up? That person that you look to every single day that changes your life, that puts inspiration in your inbox, or that you see just like lighting everybody else's life up. What if they decided not to show up? They would be missing that opportunity to impact your life and to impact the lives of others. And it's the exact same for every single one of us in here, because we all have that power to change somebody else's life just by being ourselves and by offering what we have. Okay, now that the pep talk's over, we're going to get into how to start increasing our visibility through collaboration. Collaboration goes beyond networking events, although networking events are great and they are part of it. But really, I like to think of it as a math equation. Collaboration is 1 + 1 is greater than 1. It's always just two people or more coming together and creating something bigger than they could do on their own. It's about working together. And I really want to emphasize that, with collaboration, it's about give, give. It's not about give, take, or way worse, take, take. But when you decide to collaborate with somebody else, you're bringing your gifts and talents and skills and audience to the table, and they're also doing the same. And it might be, what those values are that everyone's bringing might look different, but the important thing to realize is that everybody is bringing something to the table. So it's give, give, and you're helping get a win for that audience. So I've had this go really, really well. You can actually back up one if you don't mind. Just stay there for a while. Thanks. I've had this go really, really well where, I collaborate with somebody and they bring their audience and I bring my audience and they share, they promote. This workshop is actually a great example of that. Like, I was committed to sharing this with my audience just as much as I'm in front of a new group of people. And I've also had it go really badly where the collaboration, you give everything and it's just like one of those group projects back in high school where they sit back and get the A and you did all the work. Not that I would know. No, I do speak from experience with that one. So just like with group projects, it's really important for us to be really clear with our communication when we're getting into collaborations and what the vision is, what the expectations are. That's a really good way for you, especially if you're a person that does tend to give more than you take. It's a good way for you to help stay protected, but it's also a good way to hold everybody accountable to being committed to the thing that you're creating. So when collaboration is done right, it is just like a truly magical thing. Like I said, you're creating something way bigger than both of you or all of you, and you get to reach new people with what you're both sharing. So I'm going to give you some of my, now you can move to that next slide. Thank you. I'm going to give you some of my favorite examples of getting visible through collaboration. These are just some ideas to get your brain flowing. So you can co-host events with somebody else or join a committee. You can share your platform with other people. So for example, interviewing somebody on a live or having them guest write for your blog or have them on your podcast, be on their podcast. Those are great examples of collaborations. Presenting a summit kind of event where there's multiple speakers or hosting a panel kind of event where there's multiple speakers. Running a challenge with somebody else in your industry who's like-minded and reaching a whole new audience that way, which also gives a lot of value to those people in that group. And then other things like, starting a focus group or starting a book club that collaborates with another business owner or business. Or you can think even bigger and you could write a book with somebody or start something new with somebody, like a new podcast. So those are just some ideas. But what I really want to focus on when we talk about visibility through collaboration is just approaching it again with that giver's mentality. This is not give. It's all about like, what can we all give so that everybody wins, us and the people that we are reaching through our collaboration. All right. And I'm going to give you, oops, sorry. Can you go back? Thank you. So this is just going to be one tip or an action step, I guess, but I broke it down into 3 steps that you can take to increase your visibility through collaboration. So what I want you to do, and it doesn't have to be now, is to make a list of potential collaborators and kind of think about the things that they already have in place that you could bring value to. So for example, do they print a magazine? Do they have a podcast? Do they have a Facebook group? Do they run workshops and webinars for a group? So those are kind of like your, all right, I could potentially collaborate with them in this way list. And then just reach out to them and ask if they would be willing and interested in collaborating with you. When you do this, I always advise that you kind of show how you're going to bring the value and how you're going to help their audience too. Because remember, as that person that is looking to collaborate with somebody else, that's first and foremost in their mind is, how is my audience going to benefit from this? So really approach it through that perspective. If you're pitching to a podcast, how is my audience going to benefit from this? And that's always how I reach out to people when I'm looking to add value to who they already have and what they already have in place. Okay, let's move to the next slide. And we're going to talk about visibility through connection. We have sort of obviously been dancing along this the whole time, but what I really want to talk about, and what I don't think enough people talk about, is that visibility is about relationships. It is about building relationships, and I really believe that connection, those relationships, are the heartbeat of what visibility actually is. You never know how much somebody could change your life. The next person you meet could change your life, but you have to meet that person in order for that to happen. So this is about how to form those relationships and meet those people that really help us to be more visible, and also we help them to be more visible. And truly connecting with people, it's not just checking a box and saying like, oh, well, I followed up with them on LinkedIn, or I handed them my business card, or I popped my Calendly link into the chat. It is really a layer deeper than that. It's an opportunity to show somebody else that you are listening, that you care, that you're there for them, and that you want to learn and grow right alongside them and help them any way that you can. So again, that's where it becomes a win-win. And I know you're like, wait, I thought we were going to be talking about how to get myself out there and my message out there. And I want to encourage you to remember, like, that is a huge part of this. But I think so often we get tripped up in making it about us, when it's really about the other people that we're connecting with and building those relationships with. We're only like kind of half the puzzle. So, how can we create a connection? How can we show that we are really like interested in people? One easy way is in networking events, and when you're like connecting with people online, make it about them as much as possible. Ask questions about how you can help them. Ask questions that you're just curious about. Like, I love when people ask me questions like, oh, well, what's your system for this? That's a really great layer deeper conversation point, where it's not just kind of that standard New England small talk that we always make about the weather, which has its place. But just go a layer deeper with people, and then find out like how you can really help them. Whether you're networking or in Zoom or in person or on Facebook, you can have this mentality everywhere that you go. People really love connecting and doing business with other people. And so we have to remember that, we are all people, and meet them there. So my favorite ways to get visible through connection are finding a business, I call it a business bestie, or your accountability buddy, or a confidant, somebody that you're really starting to build that layer deeper, stronger relationship with, and checking in really regularly with each other. Scheduling one-to-one coffee chats and coffee dates for the purpose of just getting to know somebody, not because you want to sell them at the end, or because they're trying to sell you at the end. You can offer to be a mentor to somebody that you can actually help grow their business or move them forward. You can step into and embrace leadership opportunities in your communities and organizations. Uh, I like to just sometimes share a quote or an article that made me think of somebody that I met while networking. So if something from our conversation, I see a little reminder of it, I might just send that over to them and say, hey, thought of you because I saw this. If you see somebody on LinkedIn post about their promotion, you can say a congratulations. You can send them a heartfelt thank you card when you do connect for that coffee chat, or when they do something, that you just want to thank them for. A handwritten thank you card goes a really long way. And then another like kind of bigger way is to join one of these online communities or Facebook groups, a Mighty Networks, and just be showing up with that mentality of like really offering value to other people in the group, and a genuine desire to connect with other people in the group. So here's your tip and action item if you want to jump to that next slide. For increasing visibility through connection, I want you to think about that next networking event or coffee chat, or maybe the Facebook group that you're already in, and make it your goal to really learn about another person's story. So ask them how they built their business, ask them how they got into doing what they do today. I guarantee they're going to have a story for you. And then you can really show that you care by asking how you can help them. All right, go ahead and move to the next slide. And we're going to talk about collaboration through consistency. Here is one thing I definitely want us to keep in mind when it comes to, visibility through consistency. And one thing I really want us to keep in mind with visibility is that we cannot be everywhere and we don't need to be everywhere. It can feel like a lot. It can feel like you need to be in all of the places, but it is better to be consistent than to be inconsistent in 20,000 different places. If visibility were a math equation, I always say it would look like this. Consistency is greater than quantity. And this goes from everything to the networking events that you're participating in to social media. You realistically cannot be everywhere, and it's more important to be in the right ears and connecting with the right people, and also doing what feels easiest and right for you. So if a Facebook group is not your kind of place to network, you don't need to do that. You don't need to attend large scale networking events if you're an introvert and you like to stay home in your PJs. So finding what is right for you, what feels most natural, is actually going to benefit you more, because other people will pick up on that also, and then you're easier to connect with. So what I was doing at the mattress store was that I was meeting everyone and I was doing absolutely everything. And it was really great for fast growth. And it was exactly what I needed at that time, but that was not at all sustainable moving forward. And now I have a very consistent strategy that I stick to, because more is not always better, right? It's usually just more. So my encouragement today is focus on what you can manage consistently, what really lights you up around visibility, and what holds value for you, and then just stick with those things. And you might have to try a couple of different things at first. It takes some throwing spaghetti at the wall, right, to see what sticks. And sometimes you find something that you didn't even know you loved. I had a guest on my podcast last month. She said it was the first podcast she ever did. You would never have known, because she was an amazing guest, and she's now addicted to being on people's podcasts because she didn't even know it was something she would enjoy so much. So once you find those mediums that you do love and have the right people, stick with those things. If you're producing a podcast, release it regularly. If you're posting to social media, really focus on quality over quantity and regularity over quantity. Again, it's about consistency over quantity. If you're joining a professional organization, show up to the networking meetings. If you join a group program or commit to a peer-to-peer group, show up regularly when you say you will. People definitely notice when you hold up your ends of commitments and are the person that shows up regularly and consistently. So some of my favorite ways to be consistent with visibility are writing and sharing a blog regularly, writing an email regularly to reach out to people, posting on social media regularly, committing to a peer-to-peer group. So people that are in the same boat as me, I commit to that and show up regularly to that. And then joining networking groups and making sure that you attend when you say you will. So people, like I said, people do notice when you show up consistently, and that actually gives them trust to want to share their platforms more. And it gives trust to people to want to build those connections with you with more ease. And it also helps you, I think, increase the trust and confidence in yourself so that you build on that and want to be even more visible and connect in new ways. I'm never a person that's going to encourage somebody like post on social media more frequently or just attend more. I always just go back to that, like commit to what you can do and then do it regularly. So if you want to get to the next slide, I'll give a easy action step around this. So one tip and action step to increase your visibility through consistency is just to choose one thing that we talked about today, just one thing, and say, I'm going to take one step towards that every single day this month. So for example, if you did choose a networking group, you can still break that down into smaller steps. You could make it your goal to connect with one person that was here today every single day for the next month. If you decide that you're going to choose podcasting as the way to get more visible, you can reach out to one podcaster a day for 30 days and just take a little action step like that. So to recap where we have been today, we talked about why it is so important and also valuable to get visible, how to kind of get ourselves out of our own way when we're holding ourselves back, and then also how to get visible through collaboration, connection, and consistency. And if you want to jump to that the next slide. What I really want to leave us all with today is a reminder that visibility requires action, right? It requires stepping outside the door of that mattress shop and going to meet people. It involves taking steps to collaborate, to connect, to be consistent and show up regularly, and to ask yourself what your value is, and know that you have value, and ask how you can be a resource to other people. When you do commit to taking the action, visibility has huge power. It has the power to launch you into the next step. It has the power to get your dream client to working with you. And it also has the power, which I think is the most important, it has the power to change somebody else's life. Next slide, please. And another reminder is not to wait for perfection to get started. There is never going to be a better time than now, because now is exactly when the world needs us. You know, we all have the power to change another person, and the world needs more good and impactful people in this world taking action. So don't wait until everything is perfectly polished. You know, don't take another course or sign up for another subscription program. You can just get out there and start. And if it's something holding you back, like starting a podcast and not understanding how to get your message onto stages, reach out to somebody that can help you. You know, reach out to somebody that is an expert in that area that can help you refine your message and get in those places that you want to be. Take one small step today. And I always say that the best way to practice is to actually just start and do. And that is all I have for you today. And I think I have one. Yeah. Okay. So if you do want to connect with me, that's my information there. And this was great connecting with everybody.
So now we're going to open up for a Q&A for anyone who has questions about anything that Emily covered today. So if you want to go into that Q&A box and throw anything out there, then I will monitor the chat and we can go from there. But while we're waiting for some questions to pop through, I had a question for you, Emily. So you talk about collaboration and being open to the possibilities. Can you tell us about maybe one of your most unexpected collaborations that worked out well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I'll tell you about a really fun one that I didn't even know could be a thing. So let's see, back in 2019, I had She Built This, and I collaborated with a women's athletic apparel company, and we ran like these challenges for mind, body, soul. And so what she brought was a really robust email list, and I had my community, and we kind of combined forces and created this 31 day experience for people that like changed people's lives. Like it got people off their couches and walking every day and focused on their sleep and their exercise and their nutrition. So that's what I mean about win-win-win, is like both of us won because we got in front of new people and we got to, experience that connection with each other's audiences. And at the same time, the people in the challenge got a huge value and a huge benefit. So it's like a triple win. Yeah. And that was the most unexpected because we went on to keep doing those. And I think that that's really where a lot of like my She Built This ideas actually came from. So, yeah, thanks. Great question.
Of course. A question in the Q&A. Someone says, I apologize if I missed this, but what's your podcast name?
It's She Built This. So same as my business name. Yeah. And I don't have any challenges coming up in the next 30 days, Erica, but I will say that's where I really built my VIP group from is those challenges. So we can definitely connect and talk about that if she wants. Yeah.
Absolutely. How long should you try something out before deciding if it's unsuccessful or time to move on?
Okay, so that's a great question. I really give things 3 tries. And sometimes that is too many. But I always give something, third time's the charm, so to speak. Maybe that goes back to my dating days. But I always like to give something 3 times because the first time you could just be having a bad day. Somebody else could just be having a bad day. The second time you start to be like, okay, this is, now my head is screwed on straight. Their head is screwed on straight. And then the third time, if it's still not working for you, I would say not. Now, if we're talking about something long-term, like a social media strategy or a podcast strategy, the answer is longer than you think. So every time you feel like you're banging your head against the wall and thinking that something is not working, just wait a little bit longer. But the best answer for this is to talk to somebody like a professional and specialist in the area that you're talking about, because if it is email marketing, I don't want you banging your head against the wall for years and years and years, trying the same thing that's not working. But typically my experience has been, it's always longer than you think.
Absolutely. Okay, we have a question from Carrie in the chat. That was so helpful. Thank you. Do you have any tips for things to avoid regarding visibility or mistakes that you've seen? I want to highlight that I'm a woman-owned business, but politely.
Okay, that's a great question. I think going back to a lot of the things we talked about today, what I see as a big mistake is people only showing up when they're about to sell you something. So I see this a lot with people that create Facebook groups or experiences like that. They only start showing up. They're gone, they disappeared, and then they start showing up when they're about to launch something or sell you something. So it goes back to that consistency and also like really understanding who your ideal clients are, who your ideal person is, and getting to the root of not just what their pain is, not what their struggles are, but why. Why is it so important to them? And I think that really helps you speak right to them, which the biggest avoid for visibility is just don't make it about yourself, So really showing them that you care, you can do that through all of your efforts.
Absolutely. A question from Emily. Consistency feels like the most challenging of your tips this morning. We need to be consistent, but the energy of content creation ebbs and flows. So how do you manage this?
Well, Emily, this is like a whole workshop in and of itself. I'll tell you what, I have my times, probably just like you, that I am 2 weeks ahead on things. And then I have times when I'm sitting there posting it that day. So I think the first step is really to give ourselves grace, knowing that those things ebb and flow. But also it can be really beneficial to hold yourself to, okay, you don't need to post every day, first of all. But say you decide I'm going to post every day. It can actually be a really good challenge for yourself because every day you do have something to say. And the days that you're not feeling it, I think that's sometimes when creativity can come out of nowhere. It can come out of the littlest thing, like the bowl of cereal that you ate for breakfast or the walk you took your dog on. So, but going back to all of this, I really focus on things on a month by month basis. So I kind of like organize everything into a theme or focus area for the month. And then I don't worry about the little stuff unless I'm like inspired to do it, because if I stick in those themes and those guardrails, then it helps to keep me on track for that whole time. And it's a way longer conversation to talk about like organizing your social media and content creation strategy. And I would love to have that conversation. So that's a really great question.
Great, thank you. Any other last minute questions? Lots of thank yous in the chat.
No, this was so fun. This was great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us this morning. I know I took a bunch of notes that I have written down, and I think you made things really actionable for everyone to take at least one thing away, which is always a great thing for a Wednesday morning to start us on our day. So thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, we're going to leave the room open for a little bit, and I'll pass it back to Heather to wrap us up here.